Welcome to the Small Scale Life Podcast. Live from Minneapolis, Minnesota, this is a Small Scale Life Podcast, and I'm your host, Tom Domeris. How are you doing today? Well, this is my second shot at this. It's been a while since I've done a live stream. I went for 40 minutes and got done, and I noticed everything wasn't working quite right, and I should have stopped and restarted. Instead, I recorded for 40 minutes and realized that I had my mic turned off. How awesome is that? So... You can bring a guy, you can give a guy a mic, but you can't get him to turn it on. I tell you, it's mind blowing. But how are you guys doing? Oh man, it is a Tuesday night, and I don't know. This podcast is called The Land of 10,000 Downloads, and we've got a lot to celebrate. But I've had a couple gremlins here. I had the misfire tonight, and then on Friday when we were heading out of town, we're going to a graduation party down near Madison. Thought everything was set, and the post went up on Small Scale Life for celebrating 10,000 downloads, and there was supposed to be an episode there, and it didn't load, didn't fire. So I think there was a problem with the file. So here we are again. Trial number 3. But we're going to get this right here. We're going to get it right. It's going to sound good. I was pretty encouraged because I am trying some new technology here. We're doing a live stream. And I'm also... I'm not going to be doing much editing here because I am putting in some of these things, the music and all the other stuff in right as we go. So I'm learning. I'm getting better at this. So, this is part of Small Scale Life. You fail, you learn, you try it, you fail, you learn, you do better the next time. So thanks for tuning in. This is season 2, episode 14, and we are celebrating 10,000 downloads of the Small Scale Life podcast. What a great way to kick everything off this week, and what a great story. I'm so excited, and I'm so happy you're here. Apologies for the misfires here and the miscues, but we're going to get this right. We're going to do this right. That's the way we roll. We learn and we move forward. So, in case you're new to the Small Scale Life, this is a blog and podcast and social media platform dedicated to developing a sustainable life through gardening, healthy living, frugal living, and having adventures along the way. At Small Scale Life, we're always dedicated to learning, doing, and growing, and we're doing a lot of that tonight. So this podcast is brought to you by the Small Scale Life Facebook group and the Small Scale Gardening Facebook group, and let's hear from them before we kick off the podcast. Hey everybody, just wanted to remind you about the Small Scale Life Facebook group. This group will give you a backstage pass and access to other members of the Small Scale Life community. We'll discuss gardening, healthy lifestyle, frugal living, and having adventures along the way. This is also your chance to see what's coming up on Small Scale Life. See some content not shared on the blog and ask questions of future guests. Join Small Scale Life's Facebook group today. Do you want to share your gardening story and experiences? Do you have questions about plants, blight, or critters? Do you want to join a fun community online? You should join us at the Small Scale Gardening Facebook group. I created this group in April of 2015 so that people could share their gardening and harvest preservation stories. Our group has everything from container gardeners to homesteaders to urban farmers. Stop by and take a look around and share your story. Continue to learn, do, and grow on the Small Scale Gardening Facebook group. All right, welcome back to the show. Well, as I mentioned, we are live from the Twin Cities. I'm back in the Twin Cities. So 2 weeks ago, when I originally was setting this up, I had a great week down in Kansas City. I was down there for training for my quote-unquote, I'm using my air quotes, real job. So I was down in Kansas City, met some great folks down there, not only my work folks, but some people after hours too. Went to a cigar bar down there and met some really interesting folks. I want to do a podcast or a blog about that and talk about that a little bit more. What an interesting thing. And I'm not a cigar guy. I really am not, especially after the you know, I've never smoked, and after Julie's mom passed away from lung cancer, smoking is just not, doesn't compute really with me. But I had a great time with those folks at a place, and they happened to be smoking cigars, and I tried one too. It was a great time talking to some folks down there. So really interesting place. So anyway, we'll cover that in another time. But when I came back from Kansas City, we immediately jumped into camping down in southern Minnesota at the Forestville Mystery Cave State Park. And that was a really great trip, just a really nice adventure. I've got a lot of great pictures that I will post up on the site about that. It was hot and it was humid, but it was a really good time. And while we were down there, the Twin Cities and Minnesota and northern Wisconsin really got rocked by some big storms. I know that people that follow us, and even my brother, they had hail damage and they lost power for hours, if not days. And one of our followers, Nikki Halverson, up in northwestern Wisconsin, she lost power. I think she lost it for a day or two. So that's something that we need to talk about a little bit, is especially since we're looking at moving to rural land, is how do you maintain power so you don't lose all your stuff, right? How do you keep power going with generators or solar power, so you don't lose everything in your freezer. We'll talk about that. We'll explore that a little bit in a future podcast. But we had a great time at the state park. We were there with our boys, Danny and Ryan, Julie, my wife, and then her side of the family. It was a really good time, and we were in tents, and Julie's dad was in a small travel trailer that we used earlier this spring, and it was just a really nice time. It was nice to get away. There was no cell phone coverage. There was nothing going to Instagram. There was no blog posts. There was nothing, because we were down in this valley, the Root River Valley, and with it being so hot and humid, we did jump into the Root River, and it is a trout stream, so it's really cold. And but it was great. It was great to just kick back in the river. We found a nice dark, deep pool, and grabbed a beer and just kind of floated around in that deep pool. I'm sure we screwed up some poor trout fisherman's honey hole, but it was awesome just to relax and cool off and have a beer or two. And it was a neck deep pool, so it was really kind of nice in a pretty shallow river. But it was so worth it. It was so nice to get away. And a little story about Forestville. This is a little town that was built along the Root River and in the valley, and they had great aspirations. They were expecting the railroad to come through and really, it would be a boom for the town. But the railroad planners had other ideas, and they were courted away. They brought the line to a different place, and the whole town just disappeared. So unlike Walnut Grove, where there was an episode where the railroad was going to come to town, and then the people fought it, and the railroad went away, and everybody was happy, and everything was fine. This town, the railroad went away, and so did all the people. But they had a main store there that was preserved, and some barns and other structures, and it's really interesting to see, how life was back then. And I will note that they had a cool garden back there too, not unlike things that we're doing today. They don't have a raised bed like I do, or vertical gardens and gutters like I did, but they have some cool gardens back there too. So it's really a good educational experience. So we did a lot of hiking. We walked all over the place, all along the trout stream, and it was a really good adventure. I've got a lot of pictures. I will. It deserves its own blog post, and I'll try to get those up here in the near future. So be looking for that. So, one more thing. I mentioned Nikki Halverson. She does have her own blog where she talks about her adventures up north. She lives up in northwestern Wisconsin. They moved out of the Twin Cities. They've done what we want to do. Moved out of the Twin Cities, bought a small place on a piece of land up there, and they're just carving it out of the woods. A small little place that they've totally renovated. She's so busy working with the local school up there and with kids groups and bees, and she's just doing a great job. So she talks about it on her blog. She's got a blog called mywoodlandtribe.blogspot.com. I'll have that in the notes. And she talks more about her adventures up north. And I hope to meet Nikki someday. I have invited her on the podcast. Would love to have a conversation about getting out of the Twin Cities and moving to a rural spot, and what's that like? what does she miss? What are the advantages? I think she'll talk about mosquitoes and wood ticks and snakes. There are a few snakes up there, nothing poisonous, but she has bumped into some snakes. So check out her blog and let her know that we sent you over there. So I hope you will check out Nikki's blog at mywoodlandtribe.blogspot.com. Okay, well, the camping trip was great because we got away from the Twin Cities. We got away from our house. It's been busy here. This has been where all systems go for the move. For those of you who might be new to the podcast, trying to figure out what I'm talking about, we've been renting a house here in the Twin Cities since we moved up from Illinois back in 2012. So we've been renting a place just outside Minneapolis, right near Lake Calhoun, and we've been here since 2012, mid-July 2012. And our lease is up, and with our boys going different directions, we're going to be empty nesters, and we decided it was time to leave this house and downsize a bit and get out of here. So we have, we were hoping to go a month-to-month lease, but the management company said, nope, you need to be out by mid-July like the lease terms state. So we're moving forward. We are moving forward with our plan, and we are going to be out of this house by mid-July, come hell or high water. But we have been busy here. We've been busy packing, and we've been busy getting rid of stuff. We have discovered the minimalists, and we've been following the principles of minimalism. So we've gotten rid of quite a bit of stuff, but we have more to go. In the meantime, we've been taking down all of our pictures and keepsakes and mirrors and other things that we had on the walls. And I always tease Jules. She's like Machine Gun Kelly, she'll put in a picture. It's like, no, I don't like that. And move it around and put it in another spot. No, I don't like that either. Move it around and put, and meanwhile, I'm counting the holes that are going in the plaster walls going, oh my God, I'm going to have to fill those someday. And now, today is that day. So we've been filling holes in the walls. We had some screw anchors in for some of the heavier pieces, and man, getting screw anchors out of plaster walls is a pain in the butt, and you end up with a big hole in the wall. So I had to patch all that up. I had to fill up all those holes and get that all sanded down, and then we did a lot of spot painting. And you're probably wondering, well, you're just renting. Why are you doing all that? Management company has said that thou shalt make the walls look good. So we have been doing that. I also repainted the basement bathroom. It was in pretty bad shape and really needed to be redone. It wasn't painted when we moved in, but we're going to leave it a little better than when we got here, and that's fine. They had the paint here anyway, so we're not putting any new paint on. We're just using stuff that they had used before. So we've also been packing. We packed up a lot of our specialty wine glasses, and it's very sad, but we've kept a couple out, so no worries there. And we've also packed up a lot of pots and pans and other things. But the real push is coming. We are really, we need to move forward because time is of the essence. We're getting down here now. We're in the danger zone. We're that less than a month out now. So we need to really need to get focused and really get moving. We feel pretty good about our progress, but we have two big mountains to cross. We've got to get through our basement where a lot of Julie's wedding floral stuff is, and we've got to get the garage where a lot of stuff is hiding. So we haven't taken those two on yet. I mean, Jules been working really hard on her wedding stuff, and she's done a great job paring that down. But we still have other nooks and crannies where we have a lot of stuff. So, life is going to be pretty busy here in the next month or so. We've got to pack up the rest of this house. Julie's working on two massive weddings, the biggest weddings of the summer this weekend. So it's going to be busy time for her. She's going to be totally focused on that. So, she's not going to be packing much, and I've got to, I'm going to try to pack, when I'm not helping out with wedding things and doing my job. And also, oh yeah, we're taking Ryan to college for registration. So that is going to happen. And it's going to be a fun little trip. Get to see the nice town of Winona on the Mississippi River. So that'll be fun. And he'll get his first taste of where he's going to be in the next few years. So that's going to happen. And that's going to be his new adventure in life. And at the same time, my oldest son, Danny, we're going to be getting him ready for his next adventure. He is going to be leaving us and heading out to work on to work on some other projects down in Milwaukee. So he's going to work with my brother-in-law and sister down there with their business. So that is going to be an exciting adventure for him. And what that means is that we're going to be empty nesters in the near future. And that hasn't happened in a long time. So we're gonna be starting on our own adventures as well. So we've got all that going on, and then we have to actually complete the move and make sure everything's cleaned up by July 15th. So all of that stuff is happening between tonight and July 15th. It's going to be crazy. We've got a lot going on. Oh yeah, and we're still working our regular day jobs. And oh yeah, we're still doing work here for Small Scale Life. And oh yeah, we're also being interrupted. We have constant showings here. The management company gives us 24-hour notice, and we have to have the house cleaned, and then we have to vacate for the stream of showings that happen. So it's getting a little old. It's getting a little disruptive, but it is a necessary part of the process. So we're just holding on for the ride and making do with what we can here. But yeah, we had 3 showings today, and it's just interesting. So if you have teenage boys or teenagers, you know how fun it is to get them to keep a clean room at all times, because the house can be shown at any time. It's fun. And then just weird things happen, when you're actually trying to sell, or someone's trying to rent your house. People stop by at the strangest times. Julie and I were entertaining in the backyard the other night. We had Julie's dad and his friend over for dinner, and we were right in the middle of dinner having a good conversation, and suddenly some guy that we had never seen before walks into the backyard and just starts talking to us. And it was like, okay, who are you? I mean, he was a nice guy, but it kind of caught us off guard. I mean, it's kind of private back there. There's fences on 3 sides, and the house kind of blocks everything, but it's not often we have somebody just, popping out in the middle of in the backyard. But he was nice, and he was a prospective renter who had completed a walk through the house a week or so earlier, and he just was hoping to see the backyard. And I think he said he has some dogs or something. We talked to him a bit, and then he left. And we thought, okay, fine. We got back to dinner, and then a couple minutes later, he and his girlfriend came back and talked to us. So, no big deal, really. We go with the flow, but it is a little bit odd because they should know, and from their walkthrough, that a management company is actually managing this property. We're not the owners. So I'm not sure if they were trying to explain their situation because they thought we were the owners or what, but we just had to lay it out to them that, hey, we're renters too, and we can try to help you. We talked to them about the neighbors and talked to them about the property, and talked about our experience there, and and we also explained that, hey, we're not the owners, and they seemed to get it. It was just a little weird, but we're nice people, and it's no big deal. We just rolled with it, and if you want to rent a house, post World War II house, 1.5 story, 3 bedroom, 2 bath here in St. Louis Park, right by Minneapolis, right by Lake Calhoun, give a call to a 33rd Management Company. They'd be happy to talk to you and show you the house. So, it doesn't have any gardens in the backyard, but there's plenty of greenery, and there's two awesome rhubarb plants back there. Oh, let's talk about that for a minute. Well, let's see. 4 years ago, I planted 2 rhubarb plants in the backyard, and they are awesome. And they really took off last year and this year. I mean, these leaves are huge, and the stalks are huge. And I really would love to take those plants with me, but since we're going to be kind of gypsies here for the next year, they wouldn't do well. So, it's awesome to leave them here for the next folks, for the next people coming in, and I hope they'll enjoy them. But, it's almost, I was wondering if there's some way I could, keep those plants somehow, if there's something I could take from them, to go with us, because it's great genes. Those plants are doing great, and the one went to seed. So I'm going to collect those seeds, and I've never collected rhubarb seeds before, but I'm going to do that, and we're going to try to plant those when we get to where we're going. So these rhubarb plants are just so awesome, and they've produced so much that I would love to have some at the new place wherever we go, and I hope that the new people that move in here recognize what those are, and I might have to leave them a little note, and that they enjoy them too. So I think that's important to leave, and that's a theme with us doing all this work around the house, to leave it a little better than when we found it. So I hope whoever gets it, may the odds be in their favor, and that they have some good memories here at this house. We are ready to move on. We're ready to be moving on to our next adventure, and we'll talk about that a little bit here. We'll take just a quick break, and we'll be right back. All right. I have to thank Austin Quinn over at Vlog Vibes on YouTube. He has, I've used his music here for since the start of the podcast, and even with some of the YouTube videos. And he put that song, and also the song we're going to close with. He put those together for me here recently, and folks in the Small Scale Life Facebook group got to hear those and give their opinions about those. But he did a great job on these, and I'm hoping that hoping to work with him some more in the future. But he produces music for other vlogs and blogs and podcasts and whatnot. So he does a great job, and really want to give him a shout out and tell him thanks for his work on things. So it's great to have partners and friends that can help each other out. So I'm hoping that one of you who might be interested in podcasting, John, go talk to Austin when the time's right, and maybe get some theme music or some music for him. Todd Earhart, you too, man. So the real purpose of this show, we are living in the land of 10,000 downloads. How cool is that? With everything that was going on last week and even this week, just chaos everywhere, right? I mean, things are just, it seems like everything's being ripped apart at the seams. We've got stuff going on in Europe and the Middle East and DC, and we have protests in St. Paul over the weekend, and things just seem to be going every which way but loose. Everything is just so chaotic right now. We've never been this prosperous, yet everywhere is just strife, anger, and violence. And it was really getting me down last week. It's just, and even some of this week, but we really, Julie and I have been doing some introspection. The last 2 years have been crazy in our lives, and there's you kind of have to take a step back, and you can get all stressed out about that stuff and all angry about it, but you really have to think about it. I mean, is there anything we can do about the strife, violence, and chaos? Is there? We don't have any control over that stuff. We don't have control over those situations. I can barely get Ryan to clean his room for showings. And so if I can't even get him to clean his room, how the heck am I going to control what happens in a far off land or a far off city or even the house next door? I can't even control what those guys are going to wear to dinner. So, and sometimes I can't even control the mess on my desk. I won't even show you a picture of that right now. So, how can I control those other things? And part of listening to the minimalists and some other folks and really trying to, think about things, you really got to just let it go. There's just nothing you can do. You can, you need to focus on what is happening in your life, and you really need to look at what's happening in your office, in your house, in your room, and in your backyard, and start there. Start there. You can't change the world if you can't clean your desk. You just need to really start with yourself. How can you improve yourself? How can I improve myself? How can I get stronger mentally, physically, and spiritually? What do I need to do to become who I want to be? And that's really something that has driven me to small scale life. I started small scale gardening in 2014 and really focused on gardening, but there was more I wanted to say. And that's why I started small scale life in 2015. I wanted to dig into some other areas, and I really wanted to, I wanted this to be more of an accountability podcast and blog for me as well. Cause I can easily, come home from work and just plug into the TV and zone out, and then wake up in the morning and get ready for work and go to work and work for 10 hours and come home and zone out in front of the TV and wake up in the morning and, wash, rinse, and repeat. But I thought if I had this podcast, if I had this blog, then that would force me to do some stuff that's kind of interesting, and then I could share those experiences with you. And I want to I want to share that stuff with you because I'm hoping that you'll learn from my successes and failures. I'm hoping that you'll be inspired to try some of this stuff too, and that's really what small scale life is all about. Whether it's the blog or the podcast or all the social media stuff, I'm just here to inspire you. I really want to inspire you. And I want you inspired to try new things. Try some gardening. Why not, right? Try going to that little winery down the street or that little that new business, or try to go canoeing or kayaking on a river. Try some camping. Try some new things. And even I have to do a better job of that too. I'm hoping that I can show you how to reduce some stress in your life. I get stressed. I do. Well, I got stressed tonight cooking dinner. I mean, it just happens. But, one thing that's reduced stress for me is gardening. It's been huge for me. I mean, it really is relaxing to me. And I almost get a little stressed because all my plants are up north right now at a different house where we're going, not in my backyard. And I can't go out and check them out every day. But, I'm hoping that we can reduce life together here, that we can reduce some stress in our life. And, I'm hoping that this whole thing will also plant some seeds that will grow something useful and beautiful in your life, whether it's gardening or trying some canning or trying this new recipe or, just learning new skills. I'm hoping that we can learn some new skills together, and you'll be inspired to try something new and not, pass me up. Hey, pass me up. We'll talk about that. I'm hoping that that we all get out of debt and stay out of debt. We haven't really jumped into that yet. But Jules, I've been working on her, and she's going to be all in here once we get our move done. We're going to talk about some of that stuff, what we're doing. And another thing that I've really tried to inspire you is to see the beauty around you in our simple everyday life and experiences. Whether it's, taking a picture of a cool sunset, or taking a picture of some cool bees, pollinating your flowers, or your cucumber flowers, or the seeds of the rhubarb plant, or, the lake, or a dock in a lake, or, just simple stuff. I'm hoping that you'll stop and take some time and enjoy the beauty around us, because we're just so busy these days. We're running to work. We're running to take the kids to some sports practice, or we've got to go to a meeting, or we've got to go to church, or we've got to go see friends, or we've got to go on a trip, or we got to move our house, right? We're just on the go all the time, and we miss things around us. We miss the red robin, or red cardinal that lands in the driveway and is chirping, and we miss the squirrels eating the little propellers that came out of the maple tree right in your driveway. You miss that kind of stuff. So hopefully we can slow down and enjoy that beauty in simple everyday life. And one thing I want to inspire you to do, and this is accountability for me again, is develop some close friends and really to build a small community around us. So many times we're operating alone and independently, and we really need to do that. And I'm guilty. And one of my New Year's resolutions was to really work on some friendships, and I haven't done so good about that, and I've really gotta pick up the ball and run with that, and do a better job about that. And small community is the next step. You get a couple good friends, and suddenly you're starting to build something. You're building momentum, and that's where we're going. That's where we're going to be going. I've been kind of on hold and trying to get through all this stuff. Sometimes I don't multitask too well, but that is something that we're going to be doing. Greg Burns and Drew Sample and Dustin Thompson and some of these other guys, Rob Kaiser, all out in Ohio. I'm really jealous of those guys. They've got a really cool thing set up out there, the Ohio Get Stuff Done crew. And they get together, they do projects, they have a meal, they drink mead, they hang out together, and they get stuff done. They'll butcher hogs, they'll butcher chickens, they'll build a fence, they'll analyze problems and get a plan to figure out how to help another friend in their group. So that is this is where I see some of my groups, my Facebook groups, why I set those up. There is a plan there. I set some Facebook groups up so we can develop a small community, especially the Minnesota, Wisconsin regenerative ag group. There's some really cool people in there that I'm going to get out and meet, and we're going to hang out a little bit, and we're just going to start to build that small community. I think that's important, and develop some close friends too. So that's coming. And I haven't done a real good job with that this year, and I need to do a better job about that. And of course, inspire you to have some fun and some adventures along the way. We've done some cool stuff, like we went and saw the Minimalists. We went and saw Cat Perkins at a winery. We've done some cool stuff, and I've got so much stuff that so many pictures, so many stories that I just need to write and I need to put down on the blog. And it's just been sometimes it's been feeling like you're holding on for dear life and trying to get something out. So I'm going to do a better job about that moving forward as we march towards the next 10,000 downloads. But when I opened my computer on Friday, and I started looking at the analytics, I knew we were close, and there it was. We were at 10,002 downloads of the Small Scale Life podcast, and it was a cool feeling, and I got really excited about it. I mean, it was just amazing. You got to celebrate these things, right? You got to, I've had some great stories and great friends that have been involved in this, and it just occurred to me that, what we talk about on this little podcast inspired people to come back and download the podcast again, up to 10,000 times, right? I mean, something must be clicking. Something's resonating with you to come back and listen to me. Or maybe you don't want to listen to me. Maybe you want to listen to my guests, which is totally fine with me. But something's resonating, and it makes you want to come back and listen to the show. And that makes me smile. We must be striking a chord, and it's only going to get better from here. We're getting things figured out slowly but surely, like this live stream, right? It might take me 2 times, but I'll get it figured out. I started Small Scale Life in October of 2015, and I started the podcast in January of 2016. When we started, 5 people a week would come. Nobody came to the site. Nobody did anything, right? Because we didn't have a voice, and we were just trying to get it figured out. I was just trying to get something going. But now we're getting like 200 downloads per episode, over 200 downloads. And like the podcast with the Captain Lumber Squatch, Greg Burns, that was up around 5, almost 600 downloads. That was great. That was awesome. And that was such a fun podcast too. Got to have him back on. But it was just amazing to me. I'm just an ordinary guy. I'm not that special. I'm just a dude. I'm just kind of a heavy set dude too, I'm still not who I want to be. I'm still working on stuff. I've got to improve my health. I'm, working on my mindset. I got to get stronger. I need to develop some friends and start the trial. I mean, there's so many things that I want to do. And heck, I don't even have a garden right now. Well, I'm managing one, but there's just, I'm just a dude. I'm just a guy. I'm just a guy in the street. But I have a couple things. I've got this microphone, right? I've got this microphone. I got a little bit of gumption, maybe a little chutzpah. I don't know. I've got a vision. I've got some drive. I mean, it's 11:30 and I'm recording this thing, 11:30 at night. But I've got some vision. I mean, I'm looking to the future and what things look like, and it's pretty cool. It can be pretty cool. And I don't know everything. That's the beautiful thing too. I'm just a guy and I don't know everything. But I'm going to take steps to get us closer to that vision, right? And believe it or not, all this chaos in our life in the past 2 years and even this month, all this crazy, chaotic life stuff, little things, little cogs are dropping into place in the machine. Things are happening. Things are clicking. Stuff is starting to drop into place. And you might not see it with one podcast or post during a week, right? You might not see it. But we are starting to cover some ground. We're starting to move towards those goals. And I'm trying to learn too. I'm trying to learn and become an expert with this stuff and get better with it. And we're going to make some massive grounds towards those goals and towards that vision with each post. Really, we are. So I really need to say thank you. You guys are all part of that vision and all part of this story. And that includes the guests. I've had some really great guests on the show. We just had Michael Jordan. I recorded a 3-hour podcast with him. I'm going to have to work on that one a little bit because it was so awesome. I hardly had to speak at all because he had so much knowledge. We had Travis Swanson, the other bee guy, and we had the plant charmer and Bren Haas and Greg Burns and Scott Hebert and Drew Sample and Charles Hugh Smith. Wow, what an author. Love to have him back on again. Jay Dolan, man, my good buddy. He's been on quite a few times. We're going to have him back on. Todd Earhart, another good guy. We've had some really cool people on, and they are part of the story. I've learned a lot from them. I've built some friendships. I've built some friendships with these people, and I really appreciate the time they spent preparing for the show, being on the show, putting up with, sometimes the schedule didn't go right. Oh, Kevin Michael Geary. Yeah. Thank you, Kevin, for being on the show. And everybody else that I've missed, just great people, and I really appreciate them being on the show. And they've just been so interesting, and they taught me about the subjects that we're talking about, the gardening, the rural living, the healthy living, the mindset, rebooting my life. I mean, man, Kevin Michael Geary, he's opened my eyes to so many things, and you know, really made some big changes, just with his program. I mean, just really cool stuff. So, the guests, they've been unique and they've been excellent. I owe them a lot. They're a huge part of the story. Thank you, all of you. You all are great. And the audience is everything. You guys are all a huge part of the story here. I mean, if you weren't downloading the podcast and listening and coming to the blog and looking at the social media and making comments and participating in the groups and really giving feedback, I probably would have quit a long time ago. Really. I mean, I'm not that much of a narcissist. I mean, I would have said the hell with it, right? But I love getting the feedback. And even when it's some tough love, when the sound wasn't good, one of my friends said, "Hey, your sound stinks on the podcast. Fix that," And Greg Burns and Drew Sample, they said, "Hey, you're mono and I can hear one guy in one ear and the other person in the other ear. Get that fixed." I mean, great feedback. And I really appreciate it. I really appreciate the audience. You guys are fantastic. I'm hoping that we get more activity and questions and issues and problems, and we'll get those answers to you. We'll find experts. If I don't know, we'll find experts who know, and we'll get those things answered. So the audience is huge. It's huge. You guys are everything. So thank you so much for downloading this podcast. We're marching into the future. We've got a lot of things happening and in our lives and here at the podcast, because our podcast and our blog is part of our lives. Things for us are changing, and those will probably be reflected in the podcast too. Things are going to get interesting. We're going to be empty nesters. 44, empty nester. It's kind of a weird thing these days, but I haven't been an empty nester. I haven't been without kids since I was 21. So this is going to be really fun. It's going to be different. And our family's going to get started with their own adventures. So that's going to be cool, and it's going to leave us a lot to talk about. I bet if you left today and came back next year at this time, you'll be amazed where we are and where all the ground we've covered and what's happening. I mean, we've got a timeline. Things are going to be happening. So, of course, I'm not encouraging you to leave. Don't leave. Don't leave. I want you to be part of the journey. Pack a lunch. Get your suitcase or your duffel bag. I want you to be part of the story and go along on this journey with us. But things are really going to change here, and it's going to be a great story. As far as the blog and podcast, we're only going to get better. Sometimes I only hit once a week. Sometimes I miss a week. Just things get crazy. And I've got so much planned, really do. And I've got so much material that hasn't seen the light of day yet, and that's on me. I've got to get that stuff up and posted on the site. A lot of things that you haven't seen yet. A lot of stories and pictures and interesting places I've been that you just haven't seen. So, that's on me to get that up there, and I'm going to be working on that. And we're going to be pushing into some areas and topics and guests. They'll be pretty interesting, maybe a little controversial, maybe interesting, I think. Who knows? We don't know yet. It'll be interesting, but it's going to help us as we move towards achieving a more simple, small scale life. So stay tuned. It's really going to get fun. I was listening to Kevin Michael Geary's podcast on rebootedbody.com, and he was talking about celebrating. If you're a 2 right now and you make progress and you're like a 5 or 6, you really need to celebrate that change, because that's a huge change from being a 2. You're not up to a 9 or 10 yet, but hey, you've made some good progress. So we're celebrating that. We have made great progress. From having 0, nothing to 10,000 downloads is awesome. It's a great achievement. And I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit. Awesome. And thank you for your support, your time, and your interest. This is only the beginning. We're just getting started. And I'm really excited about that. So I would encourage you all to join the Small Scale Life Facebook group. Become part of that community. You'll see what's happening behind the scenes. You'll be able to get little previews of content and some other, ask your opinion on things, and you'll get to interact maybe a little bit with some guests of the podcast before they're on. And that's exactly what happened with Michael Jordan. I'm so stoked that I had Michael Jordan on the show. I mean, for me, only person, I mean, having Curtis Stone on the show, I would just fall over my chair. I wouldn't even know what to say to him. But Michael Jordan is that way for mead making and bees. I mean, he's not a basketball player MVP, but he is a superstar MVP bee guy and mead guy. I mean, he's award-winning mead maker. He's a beekeeper. He's a small business owner. He's a teacher. I mean, he has the heart of a teacher. He was awesome. And you can hear him on Jack Spurko's Survival podcast. He's on the expert panel talking about bees all the time. He was also on Drew Sample's Sample Hour podcast 3 times, maybe 4 times, if you include Hogtoberfest. We got into bees, and we're just talking about all things bees and who Michael is, what his story was, how he developed a bee-friendly company, where they've been, what they're doing, where they're going in the next 10 years. Talked about the kid-friendly apiary. And that's unique. I don't think anybody's doing that, teaching kids about bees. I mean, what he talked about just blew me away. And then I had some listener questions. So Small Scale Life, some of those listener questions in the Minnesota-Wisconsin Region Ag Group, they provided some questions, and some really good questions. And he answered them in great detail. We also talked a little bit about mead at the end, and let you in on a little secret. We're going to have another episode sometime in the future, and we're going to make some mead on the air. How cool is that? So, man, this guy, he doesn't know me. I'm just a guy. And he spent 3 hours talking to me. What a great guy. It was such a pleasure. I didn't even really say much, because I was like sitting at the foot of the master as he was just walking through this stuff. And I know some folks said, "Oh, you only talked 3 hours. What, is he sick?" It was amazing. And I actually stopped the podcast because it was getting late, and I knew he had family to get back to and everything. But what a great gentleman. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Greg Burns. Thank you for telling Michael to get on my show. But thank you, Michael, for being on my show. And, we're all learning. We're all learning. And he even said it himself. He's learning from all of us. We're learning from all of him. Maybe somebody's going to come up with a new way of doing something that'll just shock us all. But that's the key, is to learn, do, and grow. And, it was just great talking with him. And I can't wait to meet him. I can't wait to meet Drew and see my friend Greg Burns out at Hogtoberfest. We talked about that a little bit. I've got to get my butt moving, because I'm going to have to make some good corn relish and some other things to bring with me to Hogtoberfest, because all those guys are going to walk away with little Small Scale Life prizes. Oh, I got to work on some labels for that stuff too. But that's coming. That's all coming. So I've got some editing to go. I got to do some massive editing to figure out how I'm going to roll this 3 hours out of content. It was great. Please, if again, thank you for tuning into Small Scale Life Podcast. Really, thank you for your time and interest. If you have any questions, if you have any comments, if you want to be on the show, email me at realsmallscalelife@gmail.com. Again, that's realsmallscalelife@gmail.com, or just direct message me in Facebook. You can also put a comment on the smallscalelife.com blog. Really love your questions and feedback. If you want to be on the show, we'll get you scheduled. I mean, we can learn from each other, right? I don't know everything. So, the one thing I ask you as we hit our 10,000 podcast mark, actually we're up to 10,200 as of today, which is really cool. But, at this time, I'm doing this stuff for free, and I love it. I'm not afraid to do it, for free, give everything away. I'm hoping that you are getting something from this. What I'm asking from you, please share this show your support for what we're doing here and where we're going by sharing this with your friends and your family and whomever in your groups. Share this in future episodes of Small Scale Life podcast and blog. Do that. Just share the stuff, especially if I do a good job on a good article or, like the Michael Jordan stuff. Share this around. It really, I just want people to be inspired to try some stuff, and to try this stuff, even podcasting. You want to give it a shot? You can do it. You can do it. You can do what you set your mind to. And you can be on the podcast to get a feel for how it goes. Talking to you, John. Let's go. But share the podcast and blog and other social media. We'll make more. Trust me, we'll make more. But this helps us grow, and we can learn a lot from people. We can learn a lot from you. You can learn from me, and we can learn from your friends too. I mean, maybe they're doing some really cool stuff that I want to try, because I am going to be in the mood to really try and push the limits when we get to where we're going. So share, like, follow, rate us, be part of the tribe. We're approaching, we're about 50 minutes in. I think that's about enough tonight. I'm going to be back soon, really soon, with another episode of the Small Scale Life podcast. I wanted to do a couple other things before I roll out Michael Jordan. In the meantime, get out there and try something new. You guys can do it. You guys are smart. You've got a lot of skill. And if you don't have those skills, this is a good way to start to sharpen them, right? Iron sharpens iron. Try something new. Share it with us. Let us know what you're doing, If you're starting chickens, or you're starting a new cool wicking bed, or even these grow boxes that I put up, my brother's grow boxes in Facebook today off of Instagram. If you're doing something like that, share it with us. If you have a pot and you're growing oregano in there and some other things, and it's just going like gangbusters, share that information with us, man. Or everyone. I can learn. I want to learn. I want to know how to do these things. I grew some oregano last year, and I didn't do anything with it. So share with us, and I'll share everything I've got with you. So get out there, try something new, enjoy the beauty around us, and always remember to learn, do, and grow. So this is Tom from the Small Scale Life podcast and blog and social media platform. We'll see you next time. I am so glad that you were here tonight and enjoyed the show, and we'll see you for the next 10,000 downloads, okay? All right, guys, have a good night.